Welcome to Manga Machinations! This is episode number 458, and this week we're starting our retrospective on Tatsuki Fujimoto's Fire Punch. I'm Dakazu, and with me is Darfox8.
Hello, everybody.
And Seamus2389.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back, Seamus.
Yep.
Seamus is back, and it's time to talk about one of his favorite manga that he has read, Fire Punch. That is going to be our retrospective. We're going to read through all Fire Punch. That'll be our main segment. I'll talk more about that then. But yeah, Darfox, let's put up that coffee page. I remember this time because we're streaming live on YouTube again. Darfox has been like, hey, please remember to bring up the coffee first. And I was like, yes, I remember. I can do that.
Here comes the coffee page. Everybody hold on to your butts.
Yes.
Whammo.
So you can support our podcast by buying us a coffee. ko-fi.com/mangamac. Yeah, we have our contributors here. So thank you to Luid, Mia, Wyatt, Philip, Vicky Dalton, Dr. Melfis, and Poor Mexican 72. Yeah, buying us a coffee helps support us so we can buy our manga that we talk about on this basically manga book club podcast. But yes, thank you again for our supporters who buy us a coffee.
The viewers of the video podcast will witness my deep bow.
Very nice, I heard it.
You heard the wheels creak?
Yes. And as I mentioned, we are recording this episode live on YouTube. Let's see, Chris from Canada is here. Tyler says coffee is bad for you. I don't know what to say about that.
Some people drink a lot of coffee. Like, a lot.
Anything is bad in, like, abundance. You know, moderation is key, as they say.
That's true.
Though I don't drink coffee. Darfox, do you drink coffee?
No.
I know Seamus drinks coffee.
I do.
Hey, mister, are you a coffee person over tea person?
I have like a coffee in the morning and then a tea in the afternoon.
That makes sense.
That sounds lovely.
I'm much more of a tea person. I don't really like the taste of coffee, but then again, I haven't drank it that much. I've only had a handful of cups of coffee my whole life. It's just I never really craved it. Even though I have serious like energy issues that have gotten worse. Eagle-eyed viewers of the stream could probably see my CPAP humidity chamber behind me. I use a CPAP machine because I don't get enough good sleep for a variety of reasons. And that I haven't had that machine titrated in a few years, so like I need to have it updated because I don't think it's giving me that good sleep. You know, I'm almost every day around 11:30. I am dead. I'm literally just like headbutting my desk. It's bad.
Do you use energy drinks, Starfox?
No, I've never have, and even less so now that the doctor didn't want me to use it because I had like relatively high blood pressure and like not like super dangerously high, but she was like, I don't want you doing too much caffeine stuff. So I was like, okay.
I hear that. I do not drink coffee because it literally makes my heart beat too fast.
Yeah.
Though, Darfox,
yeah.
I was gonna say, if you do coffee, you gotta do it like that guy in Monster.
And put what, five cubes of sugar in it?
Yeah, 5 scoops of sugar, the sweetest coffee ever. And then you put down your sniper rifle, and you're like, I can't kill again.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna be drinking, and it's gonna save my life. Some guy looking into the scope is gonna be like, sugary coffee,
delicious, nutritious.
Something funny just happened at work the other day. And by the day, I think it was yesterday. They occasionally, the people in the office occasionally make a Cuban coffee, which is basically like an espresso. and when they make enough, they kind of bring it around and they offer it to people in like adjacent offices.
Okay.
And they brought some over. I was in the middle of like a meeting, but I don't drink anyway, so I was like, "Thank you, whatever. No, I'm good." One of my coworkers, was Puerto Rican, but they've had experience with Cuban coffees. They drank it, and she like recoiled because they had so much sugar. Um,
Yeah.
it was basically like mostly sugar and less coffee. It was pretty funny, but it's just one of those things where like Cuban coffee is like super. The whole thing with Cuban coffee is like super bitter. It's just like it's like crack cocaine into your mouth, and then you're wired for the next few
Yeah.
hours. Um, but and that can make it really bitter, right? So like I guess these people just drowned it in in sugar.
Yep.
There's a Cuban coffee place where near I work here, and it is very sweet, and it does like get you like going if you're tired.
Yeah, it's like it is crack cocaine. I've actually never taken a shot. Just like I said, regular coffee doesn't really interest me that much. So Cuban coffee, it's not my thing.
To get Vietnamese coffee where they do Vietnamese coffee or Vietnamese tea where it's like they mix in like an egg and condensed milk.
Damn,
An egg like a raw
that would
egg?
be rich. That would be
Yeah,
so
well, I
rich.
see. I think I don't know. Is it similar to like Swedish coffee where they also use an egg? But in the case of Sweden, the egg. I can't remember is it the whole egg or is it certain parts of the egg? Basically, it absorbs all the like the molecules that give it the bitterness. So like the egg absorbs it, and I don't know, like did they separate out the egg or whatever? But like the Vietnamese coffee when I had it, because it was like the egg with the condensed milk, it was incredibly sweet. It was more like a dessert than a coffee.
Yeah.
Christ, it was nice. But yeah, and that led me to then buying cans of condensed milk and diluting it with milk and then just like drinking that. And then I was like, this is probably not good for me. I need to stop this.
No, definitely not.
See, something I don't understand, and I promise, like, we'll move on from coffee talk and get back to, like, actual, like, manga things that our podcast is about. But, like, whenever I go out to, like, a nice restaurant, like, especially, like, an Italian thing, you know how you have your meal, appetizer, salad, soup, main course. And then when it's time for dessert, you're like, would you like a dessert or coffee? Why are you getting a coffee after dessert at the end?
I think the idea is that like it's supposed to offset the sweetness, right? Like that's the whole experience.
But
of...
like the caffeine, and this is for dinner. Like,
I don't know. That's a standard thing in Ireland. I think in a lot of places as well.
isn't that gonna keep you wired and keep you from going to bed at night?
I don't know. I think it depends on whether you're used to it or not. I remember who was it like Jeff Gertzman or Giant Bomb saying like he is whatever, like he's drinking coffee like 9 o'clock at night and he's still going to sleep. It's just literally his body is just used to like. But everything too is I don't know, like if I know Italy like Spain, like I remember where like they have dinner at like 10 o'clock at night and they're up to like you end up to like all hours of the morning, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, like they keep going until I don't know, is it similar in Italy? Because they just like middle of the day in Spain is just like siesta time for 2 or 3 hours is way too warm, so like everything gets pushed out.
Wild stuff.
That's basically my schedule, except my siesta isn't culturally accepted. So they just yell at me when I lie down.
You're at work and you're like, I can't function right now. And it's like, Dar, you're at work. Please work.
Yeah, just
Point out in Spain, like places literally shut down, like like whatever shops and all are closed for like that period of time, and then they're like open like later than normal. Like in Ireland, they might close at like 5 or 6. In Spain, it's like 7 or 8 because like they've got that 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the day.
Yeah, and America closes at like 9 or 10, and we don't have siesta, so like our work culture is fucked up the ass.
Yep. I mean, Japan is open, like stores are open real late too, but they don't open till like 10, 11. You wake up in the morning, like most places are closed until like almost noonish.
I've been watching a lot of random videos from there's a YouTube channel called Paulo in Tokyo. You're familiar with it, Dagazu, right? We've seen a few videos.
Yeah, he's alright.
Yeah, like he does a lot of like, hey, like this is a random mom and pop shop where they sell fried chicken in Japan, and it's like a 15-20 minute video of a day in their life where they prep the chicken or whatever, and they clean the shop, and like almost all those videos are like they don't open until like right before lunchtime because that's what they serve. You know, they're not going to have a breakfast menu. They just do fried chicken for lunch, right? So it's always interesting to see how different cultures just handle that kind of stuff.
You know, you mentioned YouTube, and it reminded me we should take care of our Manga Mac bump for this week.
Yes.
Because last week's Manga Mac bump, you asked people to watch Beard Meets Food, the YouTube channel. And we got a report from Chris from Canada that he did watch it, but he did not post on, I guess we can't call it Twitter anymore. We have to call it X. It's so dumb. Let's just keep calling it Twitter. So, let's let Seamus. Seamus is back this week. Seamus, let's pick a Manga Mac bump.
Okay.
What your people?
Okay.
What? No. Hold on. Hold the fuck on. We cannot tell people to do.
We've done coffee. We've done energy drinks. Well, is it legal anywhere? Is cocaine legal in any country?
No, it is not.
You sure?
I mean, it's not stopping people from doing things even if they're illegal. But
I'm just saying, if it's legal in one country, we're covered because we could just say we're talking to that specific country. We got listeners all across the world. You know what I'm saying? We're worldwide around here.
I don't want the Manga Mac bump to be cocaine. Please, Seamus, please pick something else.
LSD.
Jesus Christ.
Ecstasy. There's only.
Can we pick something that is like more legal? Can you tell people that are living in
Adderall?
Like, I'd be more comfortable if you asked people to smoke weed because it's legal in some states, in some places.
That's true. It is legal here. Yeah.
Jesus.
I have never smoked weed. As I looked into the camera.
Root beer. There you go. Now, I was thinking of this the other day. I was like, "What's my favorite drink?" And I was like, "Alcohol, sambuca, and water. Non-alcohol, root beer."
Okay, cool. Manga Mac bump this week is have a root beer. Maybe you haven't had root beer before. I'm going to ignore what Seamus said for that second part.
Or mix the cocaine in with the root beer, so it'll be like original Coke.
How about just have some root beer, okay? Like, maybe you haven't had it before. It's more of an American thing. In Japan, they only have it like in Okinawa because I think of the American influence there from military bases. But yeah, A&W root beer. What Barks root beer?
IBC is the brand I see here. Oh, there was a butterscotch one in that barbecue place I go to smoke.
See, let's get them to just have regular root beer because I think if you have a butterscotch root beer, it's like not quite the real experience of like you need that sarsaparilla.
It's maybe too weird. It's like drinking root beer the first time is like, what the fuck is this? Do I even like it? And I'm like, we'll try it the second time. It might grow on me.
And then it does grow on you.
Yeah, and then I remember that clip from DS9, and I'm like, oh, I get it now.
I mean, if you want to experience root beer like and it's your first time, I suggest getting a root beer float. Get a scoop of vanilla ice cream, dump it in that root beer, and then you will have a good time, even if you don't like root beer.
Actually, I've never done that. What does that do does it become more like?
Have you had any kind of like float, like a cola float?
No, because it sounds gross. It sounds like the texture wouldn't work, but like does it combine into like a more rich liquid? Like,
yeah, it's like sweeter. The ice cream at like the bottom that's floating in like the soda actually like crystallizes a little bit, so you get a different texture of the ice cream.
Frothy and flavorful. Okay, I'm gonna try it. It always seemed like just not a good time to me. I'll try it one day.
All right, root beer float, Manga Mac bump, root beer float / root beer. I like this comment from Tyler that says, "This America Seamus is crazy." Oh my god!
They've got me with the root beer, like.
I know, right? That's the America to Seamus's heart was root beer.
Although I think you can get it in Australia as well.
That makes sense.
I'd say it is a very American thing, though.
Okay, everybody, let's move along from our preamble. We're actually gonna skip email this week because our main segment's gonna take a long time. We'll get to the emails maybe next week. We'll see. Let's go to some what you been reading. I would like to report that Deluid is in chat, and he says Seamus was already crazy before he came to America.
It was something.
America's just giving me like more opportunities to express it. Root beer and Jeff Jarrett, they are true American.
Oh Jesus!
It's
Okay.
it's bringing out Seamus's like particularly weird side. He's always had it, but America's just like letting him accentuate it.
Well, Seamus, you were out last week. Did you read any manga stuff?
No, I had to check. I was like, is there any manga in that second comics I have? But no, none of them are manga.
Do you want to talk about some of the Western comics you've been reading? Because I know you have like a giant stack of those.
Let me think. What will I say a whole lot about them? I know we were talking about doing another. What do we call it? Right to left, left to right.
Left to right.
Yes, and I think I was talking. I was saying throw on Hellboy. I would say I'm just reading like basically just a load of Mike Mignola extended Hellboy stuff. So I'm done with Hellboy. So now I'm like BPRD, Ape Sapien. He's another series out of Baltimore. Turns out there's actually a website called the Magnolaverse. I'm just all in on Mike Mignola and all the different people he worked with in all these different series.
I have read some Hellboy and I enjoyed it, from what I remember. It was a long time ago though.
I feel I should have that. There's an American author, Carol Tice Oates, who I think is known for like tweeting mad shit. But supposedly she's a quote about how like Hellboy is like the true American fictional character for like a post 9/11 America or something crazy like that.
Do you agree?
I feel I need to look up the exact quote, but I read it and I was like, yeah, that's kind of an insane kind of thing to say. But fuck it, yeah, sure, we'll back it all together. Like, why not? Do I agree? It's not do I agree with her or not. It's like, is that something I'd like throw out to people when I talk about like why Hellboy is worth reading? I'd say I might, because you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I think Hellboy is pretty well regarded. That like most people like in Western comics say like, oh yeah, that's a good comic. I don't think I've heard that many negative things about the comic. Maybe some of the movies, but all right, Seamus. Anything else besides Hellboy?
I think what else have I been reading? Well, it's not Hellboy. It's everything else but Hellboy. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. The Magnolaverse for now.
All right. Seamus enjoying Mike Mignola. Dar, did you read anything or watch anything this week?
I don't think so. I think today was light on even on the watching.
You guys were watching more Dragon Ball Z movies. You want to talk about that?
You made a fucking really.
Darfox did a fucking 1 hour presentation.
Okay,
about like the fucking Dragon Ball storyline.
This is actually kind of bullshit because so like these Dragon Ball movies, they're pretty short. They're like 50 minutes long. They're not like real movie length. And we're making our friend X watch these Dragon Ball Z movies. X doesn't really like anime. Definitely doesn't like Dragon Ball, but like it's been fun because our friend Lineybo, who's been on some of the YouTube content, and he's on the Discord server. If you're on the Discord server,
he plays Mahjong with us, and he is the current king of Mahjong.
Yeah, he's way into Dragon Ball Z. So like, they basically made a trade where for every Dragon Ball movie X watches, Lineybo will watch a movie that X chooses. So it's kind of like a watching trade. It's just fun thing amongst friends online, right? But we've been as we watch the Dragon Ball Z movies, the production of these movies happen throughout the series. So the first couple of movies happen basically before Vegeta shows up, and then one of the movies happens kind of during the Namek saga, So as it goes on, new characters and new stuff starts appearing in these movies. So we kind of have to explain, oh well, this character was introduced in this episode or this saga because of this. And when it came to the Cell saga, because we were watching the BoJack movie, and BoJack Gohan finally goes Super Saiyan 2. So we kind of had to explain a lot. So I try to get out ahead of it, and so that we're not just like blabbing throughout the whole movie. And just
Dude,
like,
you started with fucking Cell into the Android saga. It was an hour-long presentation.
okay, no,
I
no, no, no.
was sitting
Here's the
through
bullshit. Like as I was talking, people kept on adding shit. Like LB and Kenzo was there too, and like, oh, you gotta show them this. You gotta like. I knew what I had to tell him. Like I knew the important information to tell him so that he knew the basics to watch the movie. But I kept on having to Google new shit and look up new clips because I really wanted to see something new or something like extra. And it ended up being like a 40 minute, like it was almost as long as the movie. Like it went on a long time, which is exactly what I wanted it to be, like a nice 20 minute. Like this happened, look, this happened. But it was what it was. X now knows everything about the Cell Saga.
It is hilarious.
We are watching it dubbed in English, by the way, so we're getting all the weird choices with music. Some of the movies have like Disturbed, and it's just like a bunch of corny ass like rock and roll shit.
I need Running
But
Pool.
rock. Any what?
Running Pool.
I'm not sure. There's a lot of bands on there that I don't recognize. One of the movies had like 20 different songs, and like I said, these movies aren't long. I don't know why they wasted so much money on licensing songs. It's kind of nuts. Just a bunch of butt rock.
Were these released in cinema here then in America?
They're definitely not in cinema here. Some of them might have been in cinema in Japan. I'm not exactly sure how they worked, but like I said, they're not feature length. So maybe they're shown as like I don't know, like a double feature or something else that Toy Animation released or something like that. I have no idea. Aren't theaters in Japan different? Like theaters in Japan are owned by the companies that make the movies, so the companies that own the theaters show their own movies. Isn't that a thing? Or am I crazy?
I don't know, actually.
I've heard that recently, which sounds nuts. It's like if we had to go to Warner Brothers movie to watch that Flash movie, or vice versa.
I think that was the case in America though, until there's definitely a period of time where either was that or it wasn't too far away from that. They either owned them or they had like exclusivity deals with theaters, I think.
Not now. We gotta go to the AMC. But yeah, we saw BoJack. So the next movie we had to watch is Brawley, or The Return of Brawley. And that's gonna be a lot of fun. So we're almost done. We have like 3 or 4 more movies.
Were some of the more recent ones released in cinema in America? Did you go see them somewhere?
Yeah. The ones they did for basically, because Dragon Ball Z had that big revival a few years ago with the Dragon Ball Super TV show, and it started with Battle of the Gods. Is that what the movie's called? Where they introduced Beerus and they introduced God Super Saiyan, a new transformation for Goku, and that eventually led to the revival of the TV show Dragon Ball Super. And all of those films, Battle of the Gods, Resurrection of F, which is the Freezer movie, Freezer Returns, and Brawley, the new Brawley movie. And also, actually, the newest movie was Dragon Ball Superhero. All 4 of those movies released theatrical releases. Some of them weren't wide theatrical releases, or like limited, but they made money. Like people like Dragon Ball. They go out to theaters and have fun.
I just realized, while you were talking about Dragon Ball Z,
Yeah,
the first Slam Dunk is in theaters right now.
I know. I gotta drive.
I gotta go see this.
I gotta drive too far to go. I might do it anyways, but I gotta it's kind of a drive for me. It's not local for me. It's annoying.
I think I might go do this. But yeah, nothing else, right, Dar?
Nope.
Okay, we'll move on to me. I only have one thing to talk about this week, which is Dogs Red. It is the new manga by Satoru Noda, creator of Golden Kamuy. This is the reboot of his hockey manga, Spina Marada. Do you remember me talking about this manga a long time ago? Satoru Noda's hockey manga?
Honestly, no.
Okay, well, before he did Golden Kamuy, he did this hockey manga that takes place in Hokkaido, which he is from. It's about a figure skater who ends up playing hockey. He was like a genius figure skater, and a tragedy struck, and he ends up like joining this like hardcore hockey team that is like the national champions like every year. Spina Marada ended in 6 volumes. It basically got cancelled, so Satoru Noda was never able to finish it. Then he went on to do Golden Kamuy, which of course is a mega hit, right? Super popular, award-winning series. He finished Golden Kamuy, and now Satoru Noda is like, yo, I want to go back to that hockey manga I never finished. So it's basically, it is a reboot of Spina Marada, except now it's called Dogs Red. But it started this week in Young Jump magazine, and yeah, it is 100% a remake of Spina Marada. They changed the first chapter to show a little bit more of a crazy intro for the main character, figure skater Ro Shirakawa. He's doing this like figure skating event, and his mom just died in a car accident, and so he wins that tournament and immediately starts like throwing chairs and like going crazy because he knows without his mom, who was producing everything and choreographing everything, he can no longer like pursue and become to do his mom's dream of becoming an Olympic, gold medalist. So he throws a fit and gets completely banned from figure skating. Moves out to a distant relative with his sister to live in Hokkaido, and he's gonna start getting involved with the local hockey team. I'm looking forward to reading this. The original Spina Marada had the coach of that hockey team was like a hardcore like guts and determination. I don't care if you're throwing up, you need to fucking work out. That always sat wrong with me, so it looks like Satoru Noda's changed that a bit. They replaced the male coach with a female character, so it already looks like a different person. But like I've already seen like a bunch of characters from Spina Marada here in Dogs Red, so it's a clear reboot. It's also really funny that Satoru Noda is like, yo, that manga you canceled? I'm gonna fucking finish it on my terms.
Fuck you, I got clout now.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is.
Has there ever been a situation where a mangaka just goes back and redoes a series? Like,
I mean, there's plenty actually of those situations, but being able to jump back and just do it like with as much fucking like big dick energy like Satoru Noda is like, I don't think there's been a case of that. So yeah, this just started. I'm gonna be reading it in Young Jump magazine, and it's gonna be a good time. Sorry, I think earlier I said Young magazine. It's a Young Jump. They're Seinen magazine.
gonna be
okay, and that'll be it for my what you've been reading, and we're going to move right along. Before we get to our main segment on Fire Punch, let's talk about next week. Next week, we're doing more Fire Punch. We're going to be reading volumes 4 through 6. And if you're using your Shonen Jump subscription, you have to read this on viz.com. It's not on the app, because this is too mature for the app. But if you go on viz.com, you can find the chapters to read with the subscription. The chapters for volume 4 to 6 will be chapters 29 to 60. And of course, I'll make sure to link them in the show notes if you want to go directly to this viz.com where they have the chapters. So you can use the timestamp link. But yeah, next week, more Fire Punch, volumes 4 through 6. Okay, we're going to take a short break. Probably very short, less than 5 minutes at this point, because we haven't been going that long. But we will drop the stream for a second, and when we come back, we will get into our main segment, Tatsuki Fujimoto's Fire Punch. Okay, we are back, everybody, and we are ready to start a retrospective on Fire Punch. This was Tatsuki Fujimoto's debut series. Tatsuki Fujimoto, of course, is now popular for doing Chainsaw Man. He's doing Chainsaw Man Part 2 right now. Well, yeah, this is it. This is his debut series that started in 2016 on Shonen Jump Plus. After he finished Fire Punch, he went on to do Chainsaw Man in Weekly Shonen Jump magazine until Part 1 ended. He's back on Shonen Jump Plus doing Chainsaw Man Part 2. Yeah, Fire Punch. Cool boy. We've talked about this manga before. We did Triple Dip way back in the day. Last year, Seamus read all of Fire Punch, and he loved it. Darfox has not read all of Fire Punch. He's mostly absorbed some plot points from me and Seamus's discussions.
I know the general gist. I know the gist of the vibes.
Yeah, and you read like the first, I would say, into Volume 2 a little bit.
Yeah,
I think when we did the Triple Dip, we covered the train fight, so...
Yes, we did. That was
so yeah.
for me.
But yeah, the Volume 2 into 3 is what we read, 1, 2, and 3 for this, the start of this Fire Punch retrospective. I guess I should give a little backstory about the actual series. Oh shoot, I should hold 1 second. I had the website link for the chapters. But let me bring up the actual Viz website page for the series. Fire Punch. In a frozen dystopia where inhabitants eat flesh to survive, can the destructive powers of fire bring salvation? And yeah, we have the copy here for Volume 1. Orphaned siblings Agni and Luna, like the Ice Witch who cursed their world, are two of the blessed humans who hold special abilities. However, not all who are blessed are friendly, and after another of their kind attacks Agni and decimates the orphan village, Agni fights to survive, vowing revenge. I feel like on that copy they purposely do not mention a lot of things.
Oh, you mean like incest and... Well, they did mention like kind of cannibalism, so...
Yeah, that's the thing about Fire
they
Punch.
tease some of the weird taboo-ness.
There's a reason, like I said, this is not on the actual Shonen Jump app. It is hella gory. The topics include fucking incest and cannibalism right from the first chapter. There's a scene of almost bestiality happening.
A lot of talk about slaves and sexual slaves, so I guess content warning about that if you just don't want to hear about this, dystopian messed up world where children are just assigned to adults for sex purposes and stuff like that. Then I guess Fire Punch really isn't for you. There's quite a bit of that stuff in like the first few chapters or first few volumes.
There's a lot of that. And that's just the world of Fire Punch. It is a post-apocalyptic dystopia. Frozen dystopia. It's like, I think they mention in these first 3 volumes that like the Ice Age has come and like there's just no food. There's barely any like thing to like eat off of and survive. And that's how like the setup is, to just set up these characters, Agni and his sister Luna. They have regenerative abilities, so to feed the people, the old people in their village that, save them, Agni is constantly cutting off his arms and giving them to like the people there so they can eat his meat. Because there's nothing else to eat.
It's and it's portrayed as weird, but also like maybe I shouldn't use the word wholesome, but it's portrayed as like this is the living arrangement that they have come across, and it's all consensual, and the people eating the meat understand the gravity of the situation, and they regret that they have to use this child, but the child is more than willing, and they just that's just become the means of survival. It's just a lot of the edgy stuff, or dodgy stuff with Fire Punch kind of straddles that line of like interesting thinking, interesting world building, and like edgy kind of ideas that like a teenager might have, right? It's like along that line where, yeah, if you really extrapolate it and you go into like this frozen dystopia, pretty much post apocalypse, um like the moralities of these people will be worn down, um to a point where like some of this stuff would appear. I mean, obviously kind of doesn't exist in our world. Of course it's going to exist in this fictional world, um but the casual nature of it is like the interesting part. It's the part that's like seeing a lot of like mainstream stories, because it's generally kind of a taboo topic. And same thing with the incest. It's like the incest, um like the sister and the brother give each other the excuse that they're like the only young ones in the village, so it's their duty to repopulate. But that's clearly not, like, the sister clearly just like loves her brother. um she's just kind of saying that, but she really just wants to jump her brother's bone. um so it's like again, it's like this weird dodgy line that the author is walking, probably on purpose. I think it's just supposed to be a little bit sloppy. It's not supposed to be like a very clean story. Where it's like this doesn't make sense in a weird dystopian future, how these characters would come to this conclusion. Um, but you could tell that there's something underneath it with the characters, that it's this kind of just an excuse, and incest is basically the main purpose of the relationship, and not like um furthering the human race or whatever.
Yeah, we'll talk about Tatsuki Fujimoto kind of like playing with ideas on purpose. Like, I think we should talk about that later, though. We should just maybe focus on the plot stuff first. Yeah, so to give a general synopsis, Agni and his sister are, like I mentioned, Agni's chopping up his arms to feed the old people in the village. Soldiers come in. They're from the kingdom of, I forget the name of the place. Belmarog or
The Homburg or something. It's like German
Yeah.
name sounding.
Yeah, and they're there to round up people for supplies, and they realize that the village has been turned into cannibalism, so their captain is a man named Doma. He is also blessed with the power of this fire, and this fire burns people until they die, until there's nothing left. So yeah, he burns the village. Unfortunately for Agni, he has restorative powers, so even though he's burning, as he's burning, he like regenerates. So now he is forever burning, and he is in
There's
constant
an important
pain.
point there, which is he probably could have like died, but his sister tells him to live, so he like doesn't just give up, and so like he chooses to not die, and it's been like what 7 years to get to the point where he can stand up and walk and think.
Yep.
8 years.
He's
Yeah.
still on fire. He has Doma's forever burning fire on him, and now he is a man walking and seeking revenge. Though by the end of Volume 3, that revenge kind of gets twisted, and we'll go into that in a little bit. He saves this boy named Sun, who thinks Agni is a god now, and so later on, Sun is, and he meets Neneto, a girl, and that leads to like a almost bestiality scene. Nenato is able to escape because Agni gets captured. He actually loses. He's beating up a bunch of soldiers, winning, but then he loses to Judah, a woman from this kingdom, and she looks just like his sister. So that completely confuses him now too. He's like, "Are you actually Luna? Are you my sister? And you didn't actually die?" It's not the case. They're different people, but and then you throw into the mix of like when the soldiers have captured Agni and they're gonna throw his head into the ocean. The train that they're taking gets infiltrated by Togata. I'm so bad at names. I should have written this down.
Still gotta.
Yeah, Togata, which is, I guess this is the first instance in like Tatsuki Fujimoto series where you have the cinephile.
Yes, the magical pixie cinephile.
Yes. So Togata is this person who's been living for a very long time, is obsessed with movies, keeps making reference to Quentin Tarantino and a bunch of different things. And they have lost all their movies, and now they're obsessed with like Agni, and they're gonna make a movie and make their own movie about Agni. Rescues Agni, rescues Nenito, convinces Agni to be the star of their movie and seek revenge. But is also like going back to the kingdom and like helping Judah and being like, "Yo, I want to set this up so like you guys beat Fire Punch." It's gonna make this awesome like tragic masterpiece of a movie. And in Volume 3, when Agni finally invades the kingdom, he goes off script. He does not do what Togata wants them to do, and actually just kind of ends up saving like the slaves of that kingdom and also destroying the kingdom kind of on accident as he's fighting like these other powerful blessed. And yeah, it ends with a cliffhanger where he's like, the slaves have escaped, soldiers are in pursuit of the slaves, the kingdom and the city has been completely destroyed and wiped out by Fire Punch's fire. Like, Judah wants to die because she's been living for such a long time playing like a false role. They want Agni to burn them, and they're like, Agni's about to give out. And yeah, I want to turn to Darfox for this too, but Judah looks like she's gonna be burnt to death, and then she's suddenly like decapitated and saved by a person in a white coat that says, "I am the Ice Witch." Even though it was established that the Ice Witch thing, the legend of the Ice Witch that, you know, destroyed the world, is a lie. Someone has now appeared and saying, "I'm the Ice Witch," and Agni, you still have a role to play. So let's turn to Darfox, because it was your first time reading the rest of Volume 2 and into 3. What did you think about everything?
It was interesting going back to this after reading so much Chainsaw Man. It's a lot easier to see the Chainsaw Man kind of roots and some of the sense of humor, and even just like the panel layout for a lot of the action set pieces. Um, and he reuses some of the set pieces in Chainsaw Man. But just the way like there's a part early on in the train sequence where like basically it takes two pages to show the cameras panning past the whole train. You get like a layout of all the carts and where Agni's being held and stuff like that. Um, that stuff reminds me a lot of Chainsaw Man. And just like the general like um I don't know if to call it like cynical or what, but just like um it feels a lot more like Chainsaw than I thought it would. Chainsaw Man than I thought it would. Even though it's definitely a very different story, and Agni himself is a different character than Denji. Or they're both like young, and they're both kind of getting exploited, so they have that kind of similarity. But like Agni is a lot more like tragic. The story is a lot more like sad on the surface than Chainsaw Man, where Chainsaw Man has a more like devil may care attitude. Um, for example, the towards the end when Judah tried to convince Agni that she was Luna, and then Agni was like, "No, you're not Luna." I kind of felt like Chainsaw Man would have been like, "Yeah, you are Luna," even though like we know like there's a lot of that stuff in Chainsaw Man where it's like the audience knows something is not real, but the characters are just gonna de- delude themselves to think that it's real. Um, that's here too, but in that specific situation, Agni kind of had that moment of like, I gotta accept this now. But I have a feeling that's gonna go back and forth anyways because Judah isn't dead. They cut her head off before she got to burn all the way.
So she fucked it up there, calling him Big Brother.
Yeah,
It like broke the illusion.
yeah. Which I kind of wanted to go back to the first few chapters to see like, didn't she call him Big Brother? I guess she was calling him Agni, but I know she called him brother when she was burning. Because I remember that page.
Yeah, but that's not Big Brother.
I guess.
No, it's the details.
That's true. Yeah, I guess Agni would know his sister slash lover more than anybody else.
Remember Inception, Dar. It's all about the details. I say this because I watched Inception last week, so in my mind.
Yeah, Seamus, you last year read through Fire Punch. You loved it. I think you said, don't you say that you like this more than Chainsaw Man? But you do like Chainsaw Man.
I do like Chainsaw Man. I think at the time, yes, I think I did say I liked this more than Chainsaw Man.
Oh, has that changed revisiting it now?
Not really. I don't know. I think I need to like finish off the series. Like I kind of remember, like it's kind of rereading this time. I kind of felt the same way I did the first time, where it's like the first volume is like decent. It's really like the second and the third volume where it's like, okay, this is now clearly like going from like, yeah, this is pretty good to, oh no, this is great. I think were we saying this is kind of the same with Chainsaw Man, where it's like the first volume is like, you know, it's interesting, but like really it's. I can't remember what volume you were saying. After a certain point when it really kicks off to like, okay, now it's like really going for it.
I think Chainsaw Man takes longer.
It does, yeah.
The first 3 volumes of Chainsaw Man are actually pretty mediocre and more set up, and then volume 4 of Chainsaw Man, where you have the Bomb Devil arc, is where it really starts going off, and you start getting bigger, better ideas.
And
I guess it's yeah. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say I think it's actually like this kind of almost the same arc in Fire Punch. It's just a little bit accelerated in Fire Punch because I feel like Chainsaw Man's trying to play with a little bit more like shonen tropes. Whereas like the tropes that Fire Punch is playing with are more like mainstream cinema tropes and superhero tropes, kind of like just generic stuff like the fireman, a superhero that goes around, fighting villains. She talks about like the bad guys have to be really evil so that we can have that catharsis when they die. Um, the those tropes, in my opinion, are kind of different than like Denji being kind of like a shonen Genki boy, which he's kind of like a twisted version of that, right? And I think Chainsaw Man in the beginning kind of trying to set that up. Because again, remember, like Chainsaw Man has a setup that's not that different from like Naruto or Black Clover, where he gets the power of a devil inside of him, and he gets to fight against the bad guys, right? It's like the same thing. Except of course Chainsaw Man just takes it in very different directions. It's a very different kind of story. But the tropes I feel like that Chainsaw Man is playing with, it just feels a little bit more belabored. It feels a little bit like more like going through the motions and less funny than like the stuff in Fire Punch. The stuff that Togata's like setting up. I guess Togata is almost like filling that power role. That power doesn't Chainsaw Man, but like she has way more agency than Power. Power is just basically like a prisoner or whatever, and like a simpleton. Where Togata's like scheming, and she gets to like move the story forward very quickly because she's very insistent on what she wants, right? So
Yeah.
she kind of causes a collision course with the main plot really quick, and that doesn't really happen in Chainsaw Man. It's more like then he's hanging around, he's kind of learning a little bit, he's experiencing stuff, and then eventually shit starts like shit comes knocking on the door. But like in Fire Punch, like that's just like you're gonna be the hero, you're gonna do this, you gotta train, you gotta do this, and then she goes around the back and like, okay, well he's gonna come try to be the hero today, so you better set this shit up, and then there's gonna be this kind of fight. We're the villains, we gotta find the villains. Okay, these are gonna be the villains. He just lines everything fucking up real quick so that it could be like a big uh conflict that resolves a bunch of shit and leaves some stuff open, but a lot of the stuff is resolved within the first 3 volumes. It's left open ended at the end. It's mysterious at the end, but like I would say, like most of the plot threads are already resolved.
Yeah. But there's still 5 volumes to go, Dar. So how do you feel about that?
I'm eager because I do know. I remember what you were talking about. I won't describe it too much, because we just want to keep it like kind of lightish on future spoilers. But I know there are arcs where maybe Agni, or parts of the story where maybe Agni, isn't on a revenge trip and maybe he's taking it easy and stuff like that. So I kind of have an idea of how this will keep on going. And I think it's probably gonna have to do with more delusions, people deluding themselves about things about themselves and pretending like things are okay when they're not. That's my guess. It's just the story's sort of gonna be about that, and maybe about humans in that way, where maybe we're all doomed, or we're pretending like we're not.
Yeah, I feel like we should definitely visit the idea of like overall themes and like what this story is trying to say at the end. But I do want to mention something that was revealed after this series ended when there was an interview with Tatsuki Fujimoto and his editor talking about, Fire Punch. This is something that we did like long ago when like it was revealed, that interview, and we made a news segment out of it. But basically, Tatsuki Fujimoto and his editor, they came up with this concept for like this revenge story, and they filled it with a bunch of like really taboo stuff, like we mentioned the incest, the cannibalism, bestiality, all this fucked up shit. And Tatsuki Fujimoto and his editor looked at this like story idea and they're like, this is really fucked up, but it's interesting. And what does it say about us as readers of this idea, this story, that we can look at this and say, this is kind of interesting, even though it's so fucked up? And, I remember that, Dar, and I was rereading this series, because obviously I read this as it was coming out in Shonen Jump Plus. But now rereading it for this retrospective, I kept that in the back of my head, that like Tatsuki Fujimoto is the type of person who is always putting these like taboo things in, but he's putting them on purpose to kind of like fuck with the reader and be like, you're reading a story where the main love interest is an incest story. You're reading a story where cannibalism is established, and it's kind of like you kind of read it and be like, well, I guess that makes sense in this like, dystopian hellscape frozen world. And what does that say about us? Or you're
like, none of this shit is real, so it doesn't matter. Put it this way, if Tatsuki Fujimoto went out and like, okay, I actually made people eat themselves, it's a way different thing, because that's actual real people. All this is fake, so like, he's not making any real point there. It's like, yeah, it's fictional. Like, no one's getting hurt here, no one's getting injured. It's all like, it's just lines on the page. Like, images on a screen if it's a movie. There's nothing real to this.
I mean, that's very true. But I don't know, Seamus. When I was rereading these 3 volumes, I always like had it in the back of my mind that whenever something really fucked up would happen, or something like the bestiality chapter. I mean, they don't actually show it, but they definitely like go into that idea. Or that fight scene on the train where Togata's like fighting the second regenerator, and they're like, we can't fucking do this. Fucking cut the camera off. and it just cuts to like you turn the page into a 2-page spread after the battle is over. It's like all those wall breaking like things that Togeda brings up, or like the fact that Togeda is manipulating everything, or that Judah actually is sick of like playing this fake role of like a person who can hear God or whatever. I feel like he's always just putting those in to like constantly, turn the idea of like this story, which is like a revenge story, onto its head. Because he's also said that the idea of like a movie series like Taken, right? That's a really famous like story about like getting revenge and taking out the bad guys and getting revenge on them. It's like really fucked up when you think about it. And that's like what he was thinking about as he made Fire Punch. It's like, what you're looking at a revenge story, but let's really dissect it and think about how Agni's journey of getting revenge on this people, he is doing horrible things. Like he is burning other people to death. He destroyed a society. Like it was a fucked up society that had like slaves and shit. So there's some like justice in that, I guess you can look at it, but at the same time, he killed hundreds of people in the process.
Probably thousands.
Yeah. And it's gonna come up later, Darfox, when Agni has to like think about his actions in this first 3 volumes. Especially in volume 3 when he goes directly into conflict in the kingdom to try and kill Doma.
I think it's interesting. The idea, what I get from that is that like he's trying to express that like a revenge story should be uncomfortable, because the idea of revenge is very tragic and fraught or whatever. But because revenge stories are so common, and so many of them are comedic or have different kind of wry things about them that make them entertaining or funny, a revenge story isn't uncomfortable ever. So in that sense, it makes sense that he's trying to make a revenge story actually kind of uncomfortable. And I guess his way of doing that is just adding a bunch of random shit around. But like, here's incest, here's bestiality, here's all these other, taboos.
I think rereading this is like, I don't know, like that's not really the interesting stuff. The interesting stuff is like, it took him 8 years to get to the point where he could walk again. And like that guy's fucked in the head like permanently. Like there's no like recovering from that. Like and like he purely exists because like his sister told him to live and he needs a reason, and the reason is revenge. Like it's a lot of like people coming up with some like story to tell themselves to like keep going when maybe like they're just better off just being like, fuck, I'm just gonna die. Because even when he gets to that point, is it in the 3rd volume where he's like, oh, I can die now and like be with my family, and you're like, yeah, that's probably the option you should be taking here. It's like, no, we're just going to keep going. We're just going to keep going. And it's like, it's like, it's never going to end well. Like, there's no better in this situation, and you're functionally immortal, so like you actually can't die, so you're basically fucked.
Yep, it definitely is brought up already, and like you would think that was something that would come up like way later in the story, but it's pretty much starts coming into play right in like volume 2 and 3 about Agni questioning like his existence and his revenge, and whether like this is even just, or is he lying to himself about what he wants. And of course he's being played by Togata, right? Togata is kind of nudging him in that direction of being like, no, you want this revenge, this is what you want, because that's what Togata wants to like see in like film. Dar, you mentioned Togata being like power, but I feel like Togata is power and Makima put together.
Yeah.
It's got the weird eccentric parts of power, but also the super manipulative part of Makima from Chainsaw Man.
He's missing the boss mommy, like step on me stuff. I guess Agni's too interested in just like his dead sister to be like sexually manipulated, by anybody, I guess.
It's a really also interesting like juxtaposition of Agni and Judah, Because Judah is someone who's going through the motions at this point, you know, living hundreds of years, being set up to like lie to the people to control them. And like when Agni starts destroying everything, when the town starts burning down, Judah is like, oh, thank God. I can just end this. This is so fucking stupid.
Yeah, she switches super quick.
Yeah, she's so over it. It's funny, there's that other soldier guy with the black hair who kind of ends up like taking the leader position and wants to like control the soldiers and like keep everything together. I forget if that guy even gets a name.
I can't remember.
Yeah. But he ends up coming in and trying to like rally the troops so they can like keep their society going. While Judah has basically thrown her hands up in the air and is like, fuck it, I don't care. Agni burned me.
Well, I think once like the whole place is destroyed, it's like, oh, like I don't have to do this anymore.
Yep.
All right then, I can just what I want to do. I want to die. I was thinking about this is like the anti whatchamacallit, a shopping trip manga. Like that's all about like, oh, we should all just simply accept it, like, you know, the world is ending, we're all slowly going to die. And this is like they have like a relatively peaceful world. This world is fucked. A lot of people are like, I know, fuck it, we're living on like, well, like fuck it, we're going to believe in God or revenge or I don't know what. Like we're going to do something to not fucking to keep going with this shit. Like the anti, oh, just go with it and just, you know, things how it goes. Like he's like, no, fuck that. Like I'm going on. Like there's no stopping me.
Yeah, that's very true. Of course, like the kingdom that Agni is fighting against, like they have slaves. They treat, you know, certain people as like unhuman. They enslave the blessed and like strap them to tables and just like use them as like resources. I was rereading that part where Sun, you know, after he's captured and revealed that he has electric powers, is just hooked up to a table and just forced with like hundreds of blessed to like be used as resources. It's really fucked. It's really, really fucked up scene. Dar, you didn't read that part when we did our first Fire Punch read, right?
No, I don't believe so. No.
What do you think of all that?
It, again, it makes sense in a it makes sense in a crazy, fucked up world kind of way, you know, just like this slave caste being with superpowers or abilities or whatever being used for like, you know, utilities like basic utilities for the other people.
I mean, the idea of Agni fighting against that and like destroying a society built on like slaves, that definitely feels just.
Well,
But
it feels just almost like on a whim, kind of though. Like, because on that one moment, he's like, "This is what I want to do right now. Right now, I don't want to. I less want to go fight Domu and fucking get revenge and them die. I will actually want to free these people."
Yeah, but I think in that case, I think that's more him. Like he's kind of thinking back to like before his sister died, and like what was he very angry about was like how fucked the world is, and like that's what he's fighting against. And like the Doma revenge was like the next thing that kind of made him forget about the previous thing.
yeah. Of course, Star, like, we're still, you know, this is just the first retrospective episode, the first three volumes. And you're gonna see, because Tatsuki Fujimoto is very smart about this, he made that decision to save these people, right? That has its own consequences, and we're gonna, like, find out what that's gonna lead to.
Is this just like the Dune sequels where like all the followers of the fucking guy are like raging a jihad and killing everybody?
Yeah, kind
Not,
of.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, not. I wouldn't say like not exactly like Dune, but it's a similar idea that like, you know, destroying this terrible society that had slaves definitely has its own consequences.
Well, I don't think it's destroying the society. I think it's the fact that he's like an immortal fire being who's unstoppable, and people are like, he's literally a god, and they're like, he's like, you know, son nearly dies, he's saved. Son nearly dies the second time, he's saved. Son's trapped the third time, he's saved again. and then everyone else is like, this guy is right. This guy's a god. Like gets thrown up into the sky. He comes back down. He's still alive. He destroys everything. He's literally unstoppable. They're like, yeah, I get why you'd be like this being is probably worthy of like worship in the sense of like, you know, if we worship him, then like he will help us in return. Not in the we all go to heaven, lads.
Yeah, we saw in Volume 3, like, the slaves were all worshipping Agni, and also the soldiers were in fear of him. They called him the devil, and they didn't want to fight anymore because they didn't want to be punished by this fucking unstoppable immortal being.
It's a very practical application of like religion. It's just like if I do something bad, this guy's gonna punch me and set me on fire.
Well, like I will point out for like most of history, for a lot of religious beliefs, it was something as simple as that. Like we all just grew up in a Christian society where they had that thrown the whole heaven and immortal souls and all that shit. But in a lot of cases, it's like, you know, this being or beings or spirits or whatever can have influence on the world, and I would rather them not fuck me over and help me if possible. I will act accordingly.
This is how people felt like the Greek gods walking around fucking chairs, making babies.
Maybe.
I would say, yeah, like a lot of that stuff was like, I don't know, it's not even like Greek, it's fucking, you could probably find places all over the world. It's like this similar thing of like, you know, there's like another set of being out there that like we don't understand, or spirits or gods or another world, I don't know, whatever you call it. Like Agni's like, well, if one of those just walked in off this like other from this other realm and started fucking shit up. Like the fact they're all called blessed, and when Tolkien reveals, basically that's actually just like some genetic stuff that happened. Oh, actually, I don't know that she fully revealed it yet, but like, no, that's just something. That's just some science thing. Very much like, they've lost so much knowledge that like, what is science to them? What is like a natural, like scientific explainable fact is like supernatural to them because they've like no idea what's going on here.
Yep. It's all very well crafted to make sense in this frozen dystopian future. It's really smart. The series is really smart.
Pretty good debut work, if we do say so ourselves.
Ourselves?
Yeah, we were saying it, aren't we?
I guess we are.
For a debut, it's pretty good.
Also, you're on about like him playing with typical stories. Like I was reading this, I was like, the fact that people are constantly going to piss. And there's like 8 panels of just sun pissing in the snow. Reminded me of. Was that something someone mentioned about how you never see people pissing in movies or pissing in something, and they're like, so I deliberately put it in there to be like, see, people are going for a piss now.
Yeah, there are like little touches like throughout Fire Punch that like you can tell Tatsuki Fujimoto is like being, like you said, he's putting in the parts that like you don't typically see, or he's changing up things that you think would happen. Like I mentioned, that fight on the train that just cuts to like the next part, the end of that.
Although the one thing I would point out, I don't think anything he's doing here is actually new. Like I think like a lot of that's probably already been done in a movie. He's just like he's just combining them all together into this one manga. But he's also like doing more than just that. Like, just one part of it. It's not like it's only just that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there are some obvious references that are made. They brought up the Spider-Man thing on the train again. From Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
That was in Chainsaw Man as well.
Was it? I don't remember where it was in Chainsaw Man.
You mentioned it when we were doing our Chainsaw Man retrospective. The fight on the train.
I don't remember the fight on the train.
Or maybe Seamus brought it up about like the Spider-Man 2-part. Or like the train fight sequence being like a reference to that.
I might have, because I would have read Fire Punch before I would have read Chainsaw Man, so it's probably in my mind.
Yeah. So it wasn't Dar, it was Seamus.
I brought up Spider-Man 1 when the Bat Devil or the Cockroach Devil was holding up like the car full of old people and the car full of a young person. He's like, choose Chainsaw Man. It's very much like a Spider-Man 1 moment.
Right. In part 2.
Of course, he saves the kitty cat.
Yeah. Gotta save that cat. I'm trying to think if there are any other parts here in these 3 volumes that we want to mention before we wrap up, because I feel like we hit a lot. I will say one thing that I thought did not work too well here in the Fire Punch English edition was that entire scene where it's kind of like a training arc where Togata is, at their retreat and they're helping set Agni up, helping them teach them martial arts and stuff and how to fight as someone with regenerative abilities. Agni suffers from he's on fire. He's in pain all the time. So especially at nighttime when he's not doing anything, it's very horrible for him. So Togata is teaching him English. And it's hard to get that to work when you translate it back into English,
Yeah.
It was much funnier in Japanese when they're doing things like, fuck or shit or all the other things. But in English, it's just the same word repeated.
I did think though the whole Togata training him was very I don't know, it reminded me of that thing from your man Jason Sega when he was talking about how Death Note, that showing an idea of you just take a thing and you just drill down it to the nth degree of how it works, where it's don't lose your head in your grands, break your limbs because they'll all come back a little bit faster. Togata had clearly figured out exactly how you're meant to fight as a regenerative and then just explain that in detail.
Yeah. Oh, Dar, this is something that we should talk about. How did you think about the action scenes in Fire Punch? Especially in comparison to Chainsaw Man, Tatsuki Fujimoto's next work.
They were a lot better than I expected because the Chainsaw Man action scenes aren't always that great. They're pretty good. So I expected this to be worse because it was a debut work, but I didn't really see it as worse. But it's similar to Chainsaw Man in the sense that they're pretty short. The violence just kind of happens. It's not like it's a Dragon Ball Z thing where it's just a bunch of exchanges and stuff. But it was pretty clear for me. I got no qualms with the actions in this manga.
I wonder if Tatsuki Fujimoto actually had an easier time doing Fire Punch because he wasn't necessarily on the weekly schedule, being on Shonen Jump Plus with Fire Punch, as opposed to Chainsaw Man. He was in Weekly Shonen Jump. He had to stick to that weekly schedule for the most part.
I think that is definitely the case. I think he's definitely a level of detail here that you don't have in Chainsaw Man.
Right. Probably just because he had the time constraints. I think we're mostly done here with these first 3 volumes. Dar, I want to turn to you because this is your first time reading through Fire Punch. As a big Chainsaw Man fan, and I'll ask you this again once we finish this, how do you feel about recommending Fire Punch? Somebody in general or someone who's a Chainsaw Man fan?
It's actually kind of tough because Chainsaw Man in the beginning is too cold and Fire Punch in the beginning is too hot. He needs another series that's right in the middle. Because if I we talked about Fire Punch getting kind of to nitty gritty a lot quicker. But I think if most people I know in real life, if I say, hey, read Fire Punch, they start reading it, they're gonna be like, what are you making me read? And I have to be like, well, get past the incest. It's okay. So it just has to take it depends. It depends on the kind of reader, if they're just okay with taboo topics or maybe they're I don't want to say media literate. It's not like that. It's just just not skeeved out by something as easily, and just see what the story is trying to do. Accept that you're not going to get like everything up front, and just kind of go along for the ride. Whereas like Chainsaw Man, like Chainsaw Man is kind of almost like the opposite. Whereas like when they first start reading Chainsaw Man, they're gonna be like, "I've read this before. This is like not that interesting. It's kind of funny. It's kind of like the art's pretty good, but like it's kind of like whatever." And then I had to explain to them with like, there's actually a lot to Chainsaw Man. Like there's a kind of, it's a simple story, simple characters, but there's good nuance and there's a lot of really funny stuff in Chainsaw Man. It's 100% worth it. So it's like, it's almost like these two stories are inverted, at least in the sense of like how I feel about recommending it to just like my real life friends.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
Neither one of them is like the ideal recommendation. Both of them are like, this is really good. However, just expect this, or just get to this point. Is those kind of thing, right? Chainsaw Man managed to blow up. Fire Punch didn't get to blow up the way Chainsaw Man blew up. Chainsaw Man became a manga darling, really really hard. And obviously, eventually, the TV show came out, and the TV show was pretty popular.
It's the Dark Souls, so like Fire Punch's Demon Souls. It's like the inferior
kind of,
but more popular sequel.
Yeah, kind of.
It's a great comparison, man.
But you say inferior, and I know what you're saying, but like there are things that about Dark Souls, and again, this analogy, I'm following the same analogy. I think it works. Like the open world, that I appreciate, and some people love. Some people, they don't really like Demon Souls because they have the bespoke world system where you go to a different archstone and it takes you to that specific world. And I kind of like that in Demon Souls because it provides like really really diverse worlds. Whereas in Dark Souls, there's just like that kind of gradient between the worlds, because they're all interconnected. But you talk to some people, and the whole open world aspect of Dark Souls is just like the make or break. Like that's why Dark Souls is good, and that's why Demon Souls is not as good. And I disagree with that. So I think
I was more thinking, someone wrote this article where they're like, in Demon Souls the whole mechanics are baked into the world, and in Dark Souls they're like, we're just going to take the mechanics but like it's not going to be like that perfect conjunction of like story and gameplay. It's just like, nah, this whole Dead or Alive thing, we're going to keep that mechanic. Like in Demon Souls, it was baked into like how everything worked.
It was like a stronger, less forgiving design.
Because it also had the course, you got your head cut down thing as well, yeah.
Yeah, it was really unforgiving when you're dead, or when you're undead. But like in Demon Souls, being undead wasn't that bad comparatively. Or sorry, Dark Souls wasn't that bad comparatively.
I mean, it was, but yeah, and Demon Souls is way more punishing. Also, I feel like, when we started and Seamus made this comparison, I was more into it, but now that we're talking about Demon Souls and Dark Souls, I feel like we've gotten away from the comparison of Fire Punch.
I feel like we're still right on it, though.
I think we've gone past.
It's like Chainsaw Man is like Fire Punch with like some of the harder edges, like smoothed off.
Yeah, I definitely agree with. I totally agree with that. I mean, they had to make those concessions and change this because you cannot put Fire Punch in Weekly Shonen Jump. I mean, even Chainsaw Man, when it started going crazy, it got there's a reason it got moved back to Shonen Jump Plus and off of Weekly Shonen Jump, because it was like, it eventually got to some of the places that Fire Punch got to, and they're like, we cannot do this. This is a little too edgy for this magazine.
Dark Souls does not have the Maiden in Black, and Chainsaw Man does not have the Sister Incest. That's another parallel.
Wait, does Dark Souls have incest?
I'm sure it does.
I forget what the lore of some of the characters,
but it doesn't have the Made It in Black.
It's not. Anyway, yeah, I think that covers it. There's more things I want to say about Fire Punch, but we need to read more to get to it.
You don't want to spoil poor old me.
I mean, you've already been spoiled a little bit, so you know, and you tease that, but we shouldn't say that now.
That part when he gets in the Gundam, it's gonna be so good.
That part when Agni drinks the coffee, he sees that person drink that coffee with the sugar in it. He's like, oh, I can't fire punch this person anymore. Drink the same drink I like. Monster Coffee reference is so good. All right. Sorry, you were gonna say some more?
No, stop. We gotta go. I was gonna do another monster reference, but no.
Save it for next week.
Save
it for next week. Yeah. I'm glad we're doing this Fire Punch retrospective. I do wish Morgana was here with us, but I wonder what Morgana would have to say about some of the stuff here.
And in a few years, we could do a Morgana makeup. We'll be fine.
Retrospective Redux Fire Punch.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go ahead and end this first Fire Punch retrospective episode then. I want to thank Darfox and Seamus for joining me this week. Reminder, next week, we will be reading volumes 4, 5, and 6 of Fire Punch. Those are chapters 29 through 60. If you're reading using your Shonen Jump subscription, you have to go to the Viz website to read it. If you enjoyed Manga Machinations, make sure you subscribe to us, review us, read us, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you can find us. Check out our website, mangamachinations.com. Our Tumblr is mangamachinations.tumblr.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/mangamactv. It's where we are doing live recordings of this podcast right now, usually on Saturdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Around that time, we usually make announcements. You can find those announcements at our Discord, discord.me/mangamac. And that is also our, we have a Threads. Is our Threads Manga Mac TV or
at Manga Podcast?
At Manga.
Sorry, at Manga Mac Podcast.
Okay, that's our Twitter.
The same as Twitter, yes.
Yeah, which is also our Threads and also our Instagram. Correct. So we have all three of those. And yeah, buy us a coffee to support us, as we mentioned at the beginning. ko-fi.com/mangamac. Mangamac. I won't say TV. TV is our YouTube. I'm trying to think of what else to mention. If you join the Discord, you can come hang out with us on Mahjong Mondays. We're playing Mahjong in our Discord server against community members. Come join us. Even if you're a beginner, we'll help you through. And yeah, you can follow my personal Twitter at DocZoo, follow Darfox at Darfox8, follow Seamus at Seamus2389. Seamus is spelled without an H. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to us this week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.